Hi, before we find out what happens next, make sure to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. It takes a second and really help us grow. Out of the story.
The phone rang on a Tuesday afternoon. Number unknown, tone urgent. I almost didn't answer. 8 years of silence had taught me to let things pass. Anna? A woman's voice, clipped, rehearsed. This is Paula. I'm your father's wife. Her tone carried no warmth, only business. She didn't hesitate. I'm calling about your father, Philip McAbsent. He's very ill. The name landed formal, final, like it belonged on a chart. Kidney failure, Paula went on. The doctors say you're a match. I stayed quiet. 8 years of birthdays missed. 8 years of graduations empty. 8 years of holidays with a chair he never filled. You want my kidney? I said flatly. It's not just for him, Paula corrected quickly. It's for this family, for me, for Joshua and Lily. They need their father. Children I'd never met, a family I hadn't chosen. Why now? My voice stayed even. Because you're the only one who can help, Paula said. Philip needs you. No apology, no hello, just a need. I'll think about it, I said. Relief rushed through her tone. Thank you, Anna. You don't know what this means. But I did. It meant the first time I heard my father's name spoken in nearly a decade, it came with a demand. Not reconciliation, not love, a kidney. When the call ended, the room was silent. My phone screen went black, reflecting a face that looked calm, but carried something heavier underneath. Philip McAbsent. After 8 years, his silence broke only because he needed something from me. I sat in the quiet after Paula's call, the name echoing like it belonged to a stranger. 8 years gone, yet the memories unspooled without permission. The first was my high school graduation. I'd scanned the crowd, cap slipping, gown too long, looking for one face. My mother cheered loud enough for both parents, but the other half of my chair stayed empty. The principal shook my hand, cameras flashed, and I told myself not to care. But when the ceremony ended, I walked off stage wishing I hadn't looked. College move-in was worse. I'd carried boxes up 3 flights, sweat turning my shirt into armor. Mothers and fathers filled the hallways, unrolling rugs, fixing lamps, hugging too tight. Mine wasn't there. He didn't even text. The RA asked, "Is your family joining later?" I lied and said yes. When I got sick sophomore year, stomach flu, 3 days of fever, I dialed his number out of instinct. It rang twice before a robotic voice said the line was disconnected. I curled on the dorm mattress, phone pressed to my chest, feeling like I'd called into a void. Birthdays blurred together. Cards never came. The mailbox stayed practical. Bills, ads, nothing with his handwriting. I blew out candles over store-bought cakes and told myself I didn't need him to make the wish count. Then there was the hospital visit when my appendix burst. I woke up groggy, IV in my arm, my mother asleep in a chair beside me. She'd stayed the whole night. He never came, never called. Not even a message through someone else. Nurses asked, "Any other family to notify?" I shook my head. He had vanished so completely that absence became normal. Friends asked, "What about your dad?" And I learned to answer with a shrug. Easier than explaining silence. Easier than repeating a story no one wanted to hear. Years built themselves out of the things he missed. Milestones stacked like bricks. I became an adult in the empty spaces he left behind. Now Paula wanted to act like blood rewrote history, like Philip McAbsent could reappear with a failing kidney and expect my body to bridge 8 years of nothing. I pressed my palms flat against the table, steadying myself. The memories weren't loud. They didn't scream. They just stood there, undeniable. The truth was simple. When I needed a father, he was gone. Now he needed a daughter, and I hadn't decided yet what that meant. The second call came 2 days later. Same clipped tone, same number on the screen. "Anna," Paula said, as if we were already on familiar terms. "I wanted to update you. Philip's been admitted. Dialysis can only hold him for so long. We're moving forward with the donor evaluation." No question mark at the end, just an assumption. "I haven't agreed to anything," I said. You're his daughter. Paula's words were brisk, like she was reciting protocol. It's your turn to step up. My turn. As if absence had been some shared chore we'd taken turns ignoring. Before I could answer, a boy's voice came faintly through the line. Is that her? Joshua, Paula snapped softly, muffled by the receiver, then clearer, aimed at me. The kids know about you now. They're worried too. Another voice, higher, a girl this time. Mom, does she love Dad? Paula covered the phone, but not well enough. Of course she does, she told them. Then, sharper, to me. They need reassurance. They've only ever known him as a good father. Good father. To them, maybe. Not to me. The line went quiet, except for the hum of hospital machines in the background. I pictured it. Philip McAbsent in a gown, Paula by his side, Joshua and Lily hovering, a picture-perfect family missing one piece. And now they wanted me to supply it. I'll think about it, I repeated. You don't have long, Paula pressed. Every day matters. Joshua and Lily are terrified. They don't deserve to lose their father. Her phrasing left no space for what I deserved. When the call ended, I sat in the quiet of my apartment. The fridge hummed, the pipes clinked, the ordinary sounds of a life built without him. On the counter sat a picture from my college graduation, just me and my mother, arms around each other, no empty space between us. They wanted me to join their story, to become the missing chapter in a book I hadn't chosen to write. But family, I'd learned, was more than blood. And blood alone had never been enough to make him stay. He didn't call. He showed up. I opened my apartment door on a Saturday morning and found Philip McAbsent standing in the hallway, thinner than I remembered, hospital wristband still clinging to his arm. Paula stood just behind him, lips pressed tight, one hand resting on his elbow like she was steering him into place. For a moment, we just stared at each other. 8 years of silence between us, now filled by the hum of my refrigerator down the hall. Anna, he said, his voice cracked but steady enough. I need your help. No apology. No acknowledgement of time. Just a sentence shaped like a command. I didn't move aside. You could have called. I wanted to look you in the eye. His gaze flicked over me, not searching, not remembering, just measuring. It's a simple procedure. 1 kidney. You'll be fine. Paula stepped in smoothly. The doctors said you're the best candidate. Philip doesn't have time to wait on a list. He nodded faintly, as if she'd spoken for him. Then he added, You're young, healthy, strong. I wouldn't ask if it weren't necessary. The words landed flat. All transaction, no relationship. Wouldn't ask? I said. You haven't spoken to me in 8 years. That's in the past, he cut in quickly. This is about now, about survival. Paula's eyes sharpened. Anna, please. He's your father. Blood matters. Behind her, a small shadow shifted, Lily McAbsent, clutching a phone in her hand, eyes wide. Joshua's voice floated from the stairwell, muttering about parking. They were all here, like a caravan of urgency. Philip reached out, palm up. You can do this for me, for us, for family. The word scraped. I didn't take his hand. Family? I repeated. Which one? Paula flinched. Philip's jaw tightened. Don't make this harder than it is. I leaned against the doorframe, steady. I'm not the one who disappeared. For the first time, something flickered in his eyes. Anger, not regret. You think this is about the past? His voice rose, thin but sharp. It's about life and death. Paula touched his arm again, pulling him back. We'll give you time, she said quickly. But not too much. Every day counts. They turned, retreating down the hall, Joshua joining them with impatient steps, Lily trailing close. When the door clicked shut behind them, I stood in the quiet, heart steady, not racing. The request wasn't abstract anymore. It had a face, a wristband, a caravan of voices claiming rights they hadn't earned. For 8 years, he'd left me alone. Now he wanted to stand in my doorway and tell me my body was his solution. And the worst part? He believed it. The messages started that night. First Joshua, We know it's a lot to ask, but Dad deserves a chance. He's been there for us. He can be there for you too. Then Lily, Mom says you're thinking it over. Please say yes. He's our whole world. The words came soft, dressed in care, but they carried Paula's cadence. They weren't speaking for themselves. They were extensions of her, repeating what she wanted me to hear. I didn't reply. By morning, Paula called again. The doctors are scheduling preliminary tests. They'll need you in by Friday. I haven't agreed. Her sigh was sharp. Anna, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Philip is your father. Blood is blood. I stayed quiet. Joshua chimed in later that afternoon, voice bright, too casual. Hey, we're putting together a collage for Dad. Photos, notes, stuff to keep his spirits up. You should send something in. A childhood memory, maybe? It would mean the world to him. I could picture Paula just off screen, nodding at his words. Lily's message came at midnight. If you don't help, I'll lose my dad. Do you want that on you? The guilt pressed from every angle, layered with certainty. To them, Philip McAbsent had always been present. He tucked them in, drove them to practice, showed up at recitals. Their stories of him were full, glowing. They couldn't imagine the version of him I knew, the one who vanished without goodbye. Their father had been absent from me, but never from them. And now they wanted me to give up a piece of myself so their version of him could keep living. I scrolled back through their words, each one sharper than the last. Then I powered off my phone, set it face down on the table, and let the silence settle. They could flood me with pressure. They could call it love, duty, blood. But none of it erased the truth. They weren't asking for me. They were asking for what I could give. And that was not the same thing. By midweek, the calls multiplied. My phone lit up like it was tethered to their urgency. Paula's number, unknown numbers, even the hospital switchboard. Silence had once been my father's language, and now it was noise. Anna, Paula's voice clipped through another voicemail. Avoiding us won't change the truth. Philip doesn't have time. Every day matters. You're his only option. I didn't delete it. I didn't respond either. The message stayed there, a digital echo waiting to be replayed. Joshua texted next. Mom says the donor process is routine. It's barely a week of recovery. You're strong. You'll bounce back. As if my body were a project deadline. A week to clear, nothing more. Then Lily, please don't be selfish. If you say no, he'll die. I'll lose my dad. I'll never forgive you. The word selfish lingered on the screen. Ugly, unfamiliar. For years I had been the opposite. Giving, patient, waiting. If anything, I had been too generous. Now they twisted silence into selfishness, absence into blame. At work, the buzzing followed me through meetings. At lunch, the phone hummed against the table like it was alive, demanding. My coworkers glanced once, then politely away. They didn't ask. People don't know what to do with family stories that curdle. By evening, the calls came in clusters. Paula's voice at 7, then Joshua at 8, Lily near 9. I let each one slip to voicemail, and when I finally pressed play, the apartment filled with their insistence. Anna. Paula's voice was low, rehearsed. Don't let resentment cloud your judgment. This isn't about the past. This is about saving a life. Joshua tried humor, a thin disguise. Dad says you always had his stubborn streak. Guess we're about to find out if you've still got it. Come on, sis, step up. Sis. A word he had no right to use. Then Lily, sharp and breaking at once. I don't understand you. You're blood. You could fix this. Why would you choose not to? Their father had been absent from me, but never from them. For Joshua and Lily, Philip McAbsent was the man who tucked them in, drove them to practice, showed up with flowers at recitals. They couldn't imagine the version of him I knew. The man who disappeared before I ever learned what a father's steady presence felt like. On Thursday night, Paula called while I was boiling water for tea. I let it go to voicemail, then stood still in the kitchen, listening as steam curled from the kettle. Anna, I know you're scared. I understand. But don't punish Philip for the past. He loves you in his own way. This is your chance to prove you love him back. Punish. Prove. The words cut like instructions, not invitations. I set the phone down on the counter and watched the tea swirl dark in the mug. 8 years of silence, and now they spoke like I owed them evidence. As if my kidney could stand in for love, and love could be measured in ounces of flesh. That night, sleep came late. When it did, I dreamt of my appendix scar, the faint line across my stomach from a surgery years ago. I remembered lying in that hospital bed, my mother asleep in a chair beside me, no father in sight. I woke with my hand pressed against the scar, the ache alive again. By Friday, even the hospital joined in. A nurse called, voice efficient, professional. "We're confirming your intake appointment, Monday at 9. "I never agreed to that," I said. The nurse hesitated. "Mrs. McAbsent told us you were preparing to donate." "Of course she did." "I won't be there," I said. My voice was calm, final. There was silence on the line, the kind where a stranger wants to ask for context but knows better. "I'll note it," the nurse said quietly and hung up. When I put the phone down, the apartment felt different. Not peaceful, pressure still pressed at the edges, but steady. Mine. I made dinner slowly, chopping vegetables, watching oil smoke in the pan. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, my silence thickened, no longer against me, but for me. The McAbsents could call me selfish, ungrateful, cold. They could tell their story 1,000 different ways. But they couldn't make me walk into that hospital. And with every call I didn't answer, the silence shifted weight. Off my shoulders, onto theirs. The hospital doors slid open with a hiss, letting out a wave of disinfectant and stale coffee. I stepped inside carrying nothing, no bag, no sweater, no change of clothes, just myself. The reception desk sat beneath a clock that ticked too loudly. A clerk looked up, polite but tired. "Name?" "Anna Blake." Her fingers tapped the keyboard. "Here for the McAbsent evaluation?" The name landed clinical, like it belonged to a file, not a man. I nodded. "Take a seat. They'll call you." The waiting room smelled like hand sanitizer and wilted flowers. Chairs lined the walls, some filled, most empty. Paula was there in a navy coat, posture so rigid it looked painful. Joshua leaned against the far wall, scrolling his phone with quick, nervous flicks. Lily sat beside Paula, twisting a tissue into knots, eyes raw from crying. Their heads lifted when I entered. No greetings, just stares. Paula's mouth pinched as if she were holding back words. Joshua shook his head slightly, already annoyed. Lily looked at me like I was a riddle she wanted to solve into mercy. I chose a chair 3 seats away and sat. Silence stretched. The muted TV played a morning segment about flu season. No one cared. A nurse in pale blue scrubs appeared at the doorway. "Anna Blake?" I stood, followed her through a hallway lined with numbered doors. Each one looked the same. Beige paint, stenciled digits, the faint hum of machines behind them. She stopped at a consultation room and gestured me inside. The room was neat, impersonal. 1 desk, 2 chairs, a computer screen glowing with patient records. A poster about organ donation hung crooked on the wall. A few minutes later, the door opened. Dr. Caroline stepped in, white coat crisp, clipboard in hand. She greeted me with a small nod. "Ms. Blake, thank you for coming." I sat straighter. "I'm here to be clear." She studied me for a moment, then placed the clipboard on the desk. "Before we discuss anything, I want to emphasize this. Donation is entirely voluntary. No one can compel you. No one can pressure you. It's your choice alone." The words steadied me. I drew a slow breath. "Then here's my choice. I won't be donating." Dr. Caroline's expression didn't shift. Doctors live in the space between pleas and refusals. She simply nodded and wrote a note in the chart. "Understood." For a second, the only sound was the pen against paper. Then the door opened without a knock. Paula strode in first, followed by Joshua and Lily. They carried hope like armor, but it cracked the moment they saw my face. "Well?" Paula demanded. "It's scheduled?" Dr. Caroline's tone stayed even, professional. "Ms. Blake has declined to proceed." The air shifted. Joshua froze, then barked a short laugh that wasn't humor. "You can't be serious." He turned on me. "So you're just going to let him die?" Lily's voice broke. "Do you even care what happens to us? He's our dad. He's our world." Paula's stare cut sharp, unblinking. "Anna, think carefully. This is your father." I stood slowly, steadying my hands on the armrest. For 8 years, I didn't have one. That was his choice, not mine. Joshua's jaw clenched. "That's cold. You're blood." I met his glare. "Blood is the reason you're asking. It's not the reason I'll say yes." Paula stepped closer, lowering her voice like it might change the weight of her words. "You don't want this on your conscience. When he's gone, you'll regret it every day." Her certainty didn't touch me. "I've already lived every day without him. Regret isn't mine to carry." Lily whispered, "Please." But the plea landed softer than Paula's demands, and softer still than the 8 years of silence behind me. Dr. Caroline closed the chart with a soft snap. "This conversation is over," she said firmly. "Ms. Blake has made her decision. I'll inform the medical team." The McAbsents stared at me as if staring might bend me. I walked past them, through the hallway, back into the waiting room where the muted TV still cycled headlines no one read. Outside, the morning air was sharp, biting. I drew it in and kept walking, not fast, not slow, just steady. The hospital doors closed behind me with the same hiss they'd opened. The weight was still there, but not on me anymore. It had shifted back to where it belonged. The next day, the calls stopped. Not a pause, not a lull. Stopped. My phone, restless for weeks, sat quiet on the counter like it had finally run out of things to demand. At work, the hours stretched wide and ordinary. No buzz in my pocket, no weight pressing from an unseen chorus. The silence felt strange at first, like walking into a room that had been rearranged while I was gone. Then it began to feel like air I could breathe again. News trickled back in sideways. A relative who still followed Paula on social media mentioned a post about facing a difficult road ahead. Joshua had written a line about how real family pulls together. Lily had shared a photo of her father's hospital bracelet, captioned with a plea for prayers. Not one of them said my name. The hospital sent a short letter confirming I had declined to participate in the donor process. A line at the bottom. "This concludes our evaluation of Anna Blake as a potential living donor for Philip McAbsent." It read like closure typed on letterhead. That weekend, I walked past the park where I used to see families gathering for picnics, where I once sat as a teenager, pretending not to notice who wasn't there. Fathers throwing footballs, unpacking coolers, laughing too loud. For years, those scenes had pierced. Now they passed by like weather, visible, but no longer mine to measure against. Philip McAbsent had built a second family, one that spoke his name daily, one that believed in his presence because they'd always had it. And when his body failed, they turned to me, the daughter he'd left behind, and told me it was my duty to save him. But I had already survived without him. My survival didn't depend on his blood, his approval, or his absence. The truth sat simple in me now. I owed nothing to the man who hadn't shown up, not my kidney, not my silence, not even my presence. As the sun lowered, I sat on a bench at the park's edge and let the day wind down without answering to anyone. Children shouted in the distance, a dog barked, the air smelled faintly of cut grass. Ordinary life, mine to keep. Philip McAbsent remained where he had chosen to be for 8 years, on the other side of a closed door. This time, I wasn't waiting for it to open.